guys. Welcome back to my channel, God's Finger. Just a, just a thought that has been there for some time, but I just felt like God wanted me to release it today. So God is the great positioner. He's been the greatest positioner since the inception of time, really. Since time began. He placed stars in the sky and he placed the sun and the moon. But my point is, sometimes in circumstances in life, we think like, what the hell am I doing? What the hell is going on here? Like, we may land ourselves in a relationship that worked out for many years, and then things have changed, and now you're in a position where you've got to go to save yourself, but maybe financially it would change the dynamic where you might be homeless, or you might have children that you feel like you're uprooting their lives, or you may be in a job circumstance or a non-job circumstance, and now what do you do? Or you may be in like made decisions to move somewhere or go somewhere, and then things don't work out as they should. You may have had accidents with your cars, or basic things that we didn't foresee coming, and now we've got to reroute what we think is the plan. Sometimes things may not be falling apart, they may be falling into place. Basically, on was it Christmas? I'm not sure. I think on New Year's Eve, if I'm correct, there was I went to church, and the pastor, he I'll put his name on the description because I can't remember his name now. He's a visitor. But he was speaking about how in Exodus 4 verse 14, if I'm correct, how Israel had left Egypt, and God had basically obviously told them to leave, and they were leaving, and they were using the quickest path and the logical part, like not like they were cheating or anything, but they were using the path that would get them to the promised land, obviously, quickly. And he told Moses that they're on this direction, and in his plan they were going the wrong way, which they weren't. But he then told him to go through another route, which I'll put in the video, because like I said, I'm not good at remembering places. So the place that he had set out for them, fun, like God's very dramatic. Like, I swear he just wants to be a script writer of a very dramatic series, and he wants all the views. So he actually said, I'm let them go this way, and it'll be for my glory, because the enemy will think that they have Israel, and they don't. And so the place that he positioned them, or direction he pushed them in, would put them in front of the Red Sea, and all the other sides were mountains that they could not trek with children and women and cattle and all their luggage. And behind them would be Egypt with their 300 chariots and everything. But God put them there. God positioned them between a rock and a hard place. And how many times do we, because I know I'm going through stuff now, I'm like, whew, I need a break. But the thing is, he said that it's for his glory. And if he positioned you there, he is going to come up and open the Red Sea of whatever the situation may be. It could be unemployment, it could be a bad marriage, it could be a bad relationship, could be losing your house or losing everything. He will do it in all his glory, and you will go through a sea and into your promised land where you thought you would have died. Like, if the mountains weren't going to get you, the Red Sea was. And if the Red Sea wasn't going to get you, then the Egyptians were. So even if that didn't get you, you were going to commit suicide. Like, these things are real. My point is, God is the great positioner. He's been positioning people since the beginning of time. He placed Eve in front of Adam, and like, they are the mother and father of all us humans. Yeah, he placed, I think my favorite story in the Bible, what it is when Abraham wanted to get a wife for his son Isaac, and he didn't want his son to marry any of the women in that land. He had a standard, as all parents do, and he had sent his servant, and his servant basically prayed that he prayed a very specific prayer. Like, he really put God out there. He's like, so I'm going to go to this place, and then the woman that decides to offer me water and offer my camels water, I will take as, that's the bride. Like, that's how you pick Abraham's daughter-in-law to be. Like, that's the standard. Whoever goes to the well and basically gives water will be the bride. And like, it's funny if you put it in like that, but lo and behold, Rebecca, who was basically a relative of Abraham and Sarah, basically, I love that basically is my word. So they were basically related, and he found a good woman, but obviously Rebecca had to be at the well, and she had to be feeding or getting water, and she didn't just offer him, the servant, water. She also offered to feed his camels water. And I don't know if you know that, like, feeding camels water, it's not like, here's your cup of water, your bucket of water. Like, it's a whole trench of water you'd have to fill. So there's basically a lot of times that she had to go back and forth throwing in the water to the trenches so that the camels would basically have enough. So my point is, God is the greatest positioner. He is basically going to position Ruth to go with Naomi from Moab to basically the land that her deceased husband had, and she's then gonna get what was due to her, and become not just the worker, or the basically the person in the field who was considered as poor, and they would leave the wheat for them so that they could carry it and have something as an act or a gesture of kindness, but also she would then own the field. Like, God is the great positioner. Like, Naomi lost her husband, lost her both sons, left the land, went to a homeland, and she ended up finding a husband who would be a Redeemer Kingsman for her daughter-in-law, and then she would be taken care of, and also her sons, or her basically her husband's lineage would carry through, because when you redeem another man's wife who passed, like, he passed away, when you have a child, it goes under that person's name. So you redeemed a whole line for your family. Like, God is the ultimate positioner. He knows exactly the land you're supposed to be in. He knows the place you're supposed to be in. He knows the partner you're supposed to be with. He knows everything from beginning to end. He knows the prophets, and he knows the pastors or the shepherds that are going to guide you. He knows the friends that you're going to make. I know C.D. Jakes said something a long time ago. He said, you wouldn't think that he was basically he was everything. He was the pastor, the congregation, the cell group meeting man. He was the cook, because they would feed their church. So he would literally go and be in the kitchen and have like beef grease on his clothing, change up in a suit, and then go preach. And he said, but those things, leads to the things that leads to the thing that leads to the ultimate thing. So sometimes maybe you're positioned and you're like, I'm worth more than this, I'm better than this, I deserve more. Yes, you do, but the little steps lead to the thing that lead to the thing that lead to the thing. Because David was a shepherd boy, and then he was going to literally deliver his brother's lunch. That's what he was doing. When before he could go to Goliath, his father had sent him out to go deliver things to his brothers, and he was at the right place at that time, at the right place at the right time. But God positioned him to be there and to go there, and then he would basically, that because that Goliath incident is what brought him into basically the peripheral vision of King Saul. So God knows exactly what he's doing. You may feel like you're in front of the Red Sea, and on each side of you are mountains that could kill you if you tried to trek on them. And behind you are your enemies, or your, well, in this day and age, your haters. But God knows exactly how he's going to get you out of this. He knows. He just trust him. He's been positioning and writing the story from beginning to end, from Genesis to Revelations. He knows. He knew who was going to be the king. He knew who was going to be the judges. He knew Mary was going to be at a certain place at a certain time. He knew that Joseph was going to accept her. He knew everything, and he knows everything, and he's there for you in everything. Don't lose hope, because at the moment you're positioned between a rock and a hard place. Because guess what God says about rocks? That if he wanted, he would get them to worship him. So just trust that God, who has been in the positioning business for thousands and thousands of years, is basically positioning you right now. So it's not falling apart, my darling people. It's falling into place.